Hello, Republicans. I know it might seem like most of my videos just aren't for you, but today I would like to reach out to any right-wingers that might be watching. And the first thing I would like to say is this: we may have more in common than each of us tends to recognize. Next, I would like to say that there's a lot of deep political misconceptions within American society. For one, we think of the Democratic Party as the left, and I'm here to tell you that they're not. They're actually more in the center, at least on economic issues, if not even being a bit center-right. I know, that might be hard for you to understand, and your knee-jerk reaction might be to think that I'm wrong. But I implore you to do a quick Google search and find out what kind of political affiliation every other liberal party in the world has. Look at Canada, look at the UK, and you will come to the same conclusion that I have. Liberals are just centrists. Now in America, the right wing likes to call the centrists the left, and the centrists like to call themselves the left so that they can pretend to be the friends of the working class. But most of the time they're not. I hate to say it, but a lot of right-wing talking points about the failures of the Democratic Party are absolutely spot on. And you might be interested to know that many leftists would actually agree with you on that. And would agree with you that liberals in general are kind of bad leaders. If you really want to build solidarity with the leftists, don't even call them liberals. We call them, more specifically, neoliberals. And that's because the left wing is more along the lines of something of a Green Party or a Labor Party, not a Liberal Party. And what is that thing about these neoliberals that both the left and the right can agree on? Well, let's take a look at the political economic spectrum. So to simplify this, because there's a lot that I plan to get into in a later video, the right puts their faith in the business world, the center puts their faith in the state and the government, and the left puts their faith in the workers' highly democratic systems of power. That's why it took until 2012 for the Democrats to run a truly pro-worker candidate. And that was Bernie Sanders. And even he came from the independent space as a democratic socialist. There is definitely one thing that both the left and the right can agree on, and it's that these centrists are foolish to put so much faith in the government. I would say that both leftist politics and right-wing politics center around how to replace the state. If you consider yourself to be a Republican or a conservative or any way right-wing, you may have never considered this because you may have thought of the left as being inherently statist, or even perhaps authoritarian, because you made the mistake of believing that the Democrats were a good example of the left. After seeing the groundswell of new voters that participated in the 2016 election to help Trump win his electoral victories, I think there are a lot of people who felt like neither the Democratic or the Republican Party represented them or their interests.
Welcome to the cable access televised debate between a giant douche and a turd sandwich.
Thank you for the invitation to speak to you today.
Suck up! Suck up! Shh! What? That's an obvious suck-up move.
He is temperamentally unfit to hold an office that requires knowledge, stability, and immense responsibility.
That neither party cared about the coal workers that were losing their jobs even in 2016. But Trump acted as though he did care about them, frequently appealing to them at rallies. Using coal miners as an example, allow me to demonstrate how the left, the center, and the right interpret issues through their ideology. The current situation is this: we're losing jobs in this industry rather quickly, and it's not due to outsourcing, because it's not like you can just move a coal deposit into Mexico or China for them to farm it for you. The right wing says this is because of regulations, even though significant regulations don't really exist against the coal industry. Another answer the right-wing pundits bring to the table is that perhaps this is the fault of coal unions. However, this is just the talking points that businesses and their ideology ultimately serve up to them to serve up to you. Coal unions often fight against job losses to automation, and while they don't always win those battles, they are still a more significant defense of the workers than having no union at all. The center, well, as far as I can tell, they don't really see a problem at all. They want things to continue as they're going. As I noted earlier, this plan will only lead to us hemorrhaging more and more good-paying coal jobs as employers find it easier and easier to downsize their companies and their coal mining operations due to greater machinery and automation. The left actively cares about the environment, and at first blush this would seem like it would be a problem for coal miners, because all of these ecologically concerned leftists would really like to see us stop mining and stop using coal. However, Bernie Sanders also wants to institute a universal jobs guarantee that would mean that anyone who is displaced when coal mines would eventually be shut down would easily be able to get a job with a similar wage to that previous job in a coal mine, yet without the significant health risks of being a coal miner. There are tons of jobs in building a new green energy infrastructure and a lot of much needed repairs to be made to bridges, levees, seawalls, and dams. This seems to be the only solution that seems to care about individual coal miners that are, even as we speak, losing their jobs. Unlike the left that you may be familiar with, the real left is centered around these workers, and therefore it will always seek the option which will best benefit the working class. So if you think that the state has gone too far, if you think that humans should have more freedom that our current system allows, if you think that these salt-of-the-earth coal miners should not lose their financial livelihoods because their employers found a way to do business without them, then it seems like to me a good reason that you should join the new and growing American left in politics instead of the traditional right. But let's look at another policy example. How about the topic of homelessness? Donald Trump is an example of right-wing philosophies on how to deal with homelessness is to convince you that the most fiscally conservative way to deal with this is to put them in jail, which is a very real reduction of freedom for a great many people that are being needlessly harassed by the government. This form of government intervention is also by far the most expensive to the taxpayer because you have to feed them and house all of these homeless people in jails, as well as watch over them 24/7 as they mingle with the violent and the abused in our jails, likely leaving prison less able to get a job and not be a homeless person. If you want to know how the rich liberals would deal with homelessness, you need only look to California, where the hospitable places to lay down and sleep in their cities, they have often put spikes and other things to deter people from being able to have the dignity to lay down and rest their eyes. The actual government intervention here is relatively negligible. However, it is still a harsh deterrent instead of empathy that is being inflicted by the state, even if it doesn't directly remove their freedoms. But what would the left have us do with homelessness? What would Bernie Sanders, who I have already said is the only real representative of the left in American politics, deal with the issue of homelessness? Well, he would quite simply just give them a place to live, guaranteed by the government, for everyone in America as a universal benefit if we ever need it. No one will ever have to fear not being able to make rent again, as it might be a bummer to lose your nice apartment, but at least you won't be living on the street. Your family won't have to live on the street. Not only that, but this is also the most fiscally responsible method, as time and time again, tests of just giving the homeless people a place to sleep has shown to be far less expensive to house them than it is to have to deal with the significant ways in which cities have to deal with their homeless populations. Most especially in the ways that they would have to if homelessness itself was criminalized and people were allowed to be thrown into debtors' prisons because, as you know, the cost of incarcerating a single American is a tremendous burden on the American taxpayer, but also on the soul of America, a land which claims to be the land of the free, but which would so readily take away a person's dignity and freedom to simply clean up the streets. This has also been commonly demonstrated to increase employment among the previously homeless populations. So tell me again, right or left, who really cares about the individual? Who really cares about needless government intervention into people's lives? This is also a brilliant and shining example of why Bernie Sanders would wipe the floor with Donald Trump on a humanist level if the two of them ever went head to head. Honestly, I wouldn't be too surprised if Donald Trump was putting money into the Democratic establishment backstage to push Biden, the weak candidate that he knows he can beat. It wouldn't surprise me at all left or right, money is all green to them. So what could you, as a Republican, do to help ensure that there can be a left wing that you might be able to join if you feel that some of these left-wing solutions were more to your liking? Well, if you happen to be in an open primary state, especially one of particular importance, you could vote for Bernie Sanders in the primary as the best way to piss off the Democratic establishment that absolutely does not want to see an actual left-wing candidate be viable for the presidency. It's not like you're going to be voting for one of Donald Trump's primary challengers. In fact, it's not like the Republican Party is most likely even going to give you the chance or opportunity to, because whenever it benefits them, they are going to restrict freedom and democracy to get what they want. And I just can't believe that a political group that would openly rally against a deep state would really be okay with that.